Rosa Parks' My Story, nonfiction by Rosa Parks in 1992. Introduction. In 1955, racial segregation on buses was common throughout the American South. Municipal laws in many cities required that African Americans sit at the back of the bus and, when requested, give up their seats to white passengers. In Montgomery, Alabama, where 66% of bus riders were black, no segregation laws was more hated. When Rosa Parks challenged the law on December 1st and refused an order to give up her seat, her arrest sparked a years-long bus boycott that left the Montgomery public transit system financially crippled. Ms. Parks describes the simple act of civil disobedience that changed history. I saw a vacant seat in the middle section of the bus and took it. This is an excerpt from Chapter 8, You're Under Arrest. When I got off from work that evening of December 1st, I went to Court Square, as usual, to catch the Cleveland Avenue bus home. I didn't look to see who was driving when I got on, and by the time I recognized him, I had already paid my fare. It was the same driver who had put me off the bus back in 1943, 12 years earlier. He was still tall and heavy, with red, rough-looking skin, and he was still mean-looking. I didn't know if he had been on that route before. They switched the drivers around sometimes. I do know that most of the time I saw him on a bus, I wouldn't get on it. Make this a little more comfortable. Sorry, guys. There we go. I saw a vacant seat in the middle section of the bus and took it. I didn't even question why there was a vacant seat, even though there were quite a few people standing in the back. If I had thought about it at all, I would probably have figured maybe someone saw me get on and did not take the seat, but left it vacant for me. There was a man standing next to the window and two women across the aisle. The next stop was the Empire Theater, and some whites got on. They filled up the white seats, and one man was left standing. The driver looked back and noticed the man standing. Then he looked back at us. He said, "Let me have those front seats," because they were the front seats of the black section. Didn't anybody move. We just sat right where we were, the four of us. Then he spoke a second time. "Y'all better make it light on yourselves and let me have those seats." The man in the window seat next to me stood up, and I moved to let him pass by me, and then I looked across the aisle and saw that the two women were also standing. I moved over to the window seat. I could not see how standing was going to make it light for me. The more we gave in and complied, the worse they treated us. Turn page. Here we go. Here we go. I thought back to the time when I used to sit up all night and didn't sleep, and my grandfather would have his gun right by the fireplace, or if he had his one-horse wagon going anywhere, he always had his gun in the back of his wagon. People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not physically tired, or no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. I was not old, although some people have an image of me being old then. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in. The driver of the bus saw me still sitting there, and he asked was I going to stand up? I said no. He said, "Well, I'm going to have you arrested." Then I said, "You may do that." These were the only words we said to each other. I didn't even know his name, which was James Blake, until we were in court together. He got out of the bus and stayed outside for a few minutes, waiting for the police. As I sat there, I tried not to think about what might happen. I knew that anything was possible. I could be manhandled or beaten. I could be arrested. People have asked me if it occurred to me that I could be the test case the NAACP had been looking for. I did not think about that at all. In fact, if I had let myself think too deeply about what might happen to me, I might have gotten off the bus. But I chose to remain. Meanwhile, there were people getting off the bus and asking for transfers, so that began to loosen up the crowd, especially in the back of the bus. Not everyone got off, but everybody was quiet. What conversation there was in low tones. No one was talking out loud. It would have been quite interesting to have seen the whole bus empty out, or if the other three had stayed where they were, because if they had to arrest four of us instead of one, then that would have given me a little support. But it didn't matter. I never thought hard of them at all, and never even bothered to criticize them. Eventually, 2 policemen came. They got on the bus, and one of them asked me why I didn't stand up. I asked him, "Why do you all push us around?" He said to me, and I quote him exactly, "I don't know, but the law is the law, and you're under arrest." One policeman picked up my purse, and the second one picked up my shopping bag and escorted me to the squad car. In the squad car, they had returned my personal belongings to me. They did not put their hands on me or force me into the car. After I was seated in the car, they went back to the driver and asked him if he wanted to swear out a warrant. He answered that he would finish his route and then come straight back to swear out the warrant. I was only in custody, not legally arrested, until the warrant was signed. As they were driving me to the city desk at City Hall near Court Street, one of them asked me again, "Why didn't you stand up when the driver spoke to you?" I did not answer. I remained silent all the way to City Hall. As we entered the building, I asked if I could have a drink of water, because my throat was real dry. There was a fountain, and I was standing right next to it. One of the policemen said yes, but by the time I bent down to drink, another policeman said, "No, you can't drink no water. You have to wait until you get to the jail." So I was denied the chance to drink a sip of water. Make that a little more comfortable. I was not going to do anything but wet my throat. I wasn't going to drink the whole lot of water, even though I was quite thirsty. That made me angry, but I did not respond. At the city desk, they filled out the necessary forms as I answered questions such as what my name was and where I lived. I asked if I could make a telephone call, and they said no. Since that was my first arrest, I didn't know that if it was more discrimination because I was black or if it was standard practice, but it seemed to me to be more discrimination. Then they escorted me back to the squad car, and we went to the city jail on North Ripley Street. I wasn't frightened at the jail. I was more resigned than anything. I don't recall being real angry, not enough to have an argument. I was just prepared to accept whatever fate I had to face. I asked again if I could make a telephone call. I was ignored. They told me to put my purse on the counter and to empty my pockets of personal items. The only thing I had in my pocket was a tissue. I took that out. They didn't search me or handcuff me. I was then taken to an area where I was fingerprinted and where mug shots were taken. A white matron came to escort me to my jail cell, and I asked again if I might use the telephone. She told me that she would find out. She took me up a flight of stairs. The cells were on the second level, through a door covered with iron mesh, and along a dimly lit corridor. She placed me in an empty dark cell and slammed the door closed. She walked a few steps away, but then she turned around and came back. She said, "There are 2 girls around the other side, and if you want to go over there with them, instead of being in a cell by yourself, I will take you over there."